The chances of you watching this video right now on social media are incredibly high. Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, wherever you are watching this. And yet, I want to ask you one question. The energy that you put into online dating, like your online dating profile, does it match the energy that you put into being attractive on social media? I see it all the time, especially nowadays with Facebook dating, where Facebook dating populates your Facebook dating profile based off your Facebook. And you'll see these like awkward pictures, really lame answers that people put. And your social media just doesn't make you attractive. When you think about the celebrities and all the icons you know that do really, really well at life and have huge followings, they're attractive on social media. Some of my favorite things to look at are like the Instagram models that do Instagram versus reality, and they take the same picture twice. One of them is with all the lighting and all the touch-ups, and the other one is them looking awkward and they just look like a normal human being. Every time I look at those, I don't think, haha, see, that's a real, regular, normal person. I think, wow, there's a lot of effort that goes into being attractive on social media. And then when I look at that, I think the reason that most people are unattractive on social media is because they're unwilling to put the effort in to make themselves more attractive. Now, there's a phrase that people always say at this point. Anyone want to guess what that phrase is?
Instagram life isn't real life, more or less.
Instagram life isn't real life. Why should I pretend to be someone I'm not? That's the phrase that we hear. Well, the simple answer is because most people are lusting after people who are portraying themselves in their best light. It's not about who you're not. That Instagram model is that Instagram model. They have spent time, energy, and effort to know how to portray themselves in their best light. I am the same me that I always am. But when I look back at my Facebook and I look at my 10-year challenge, what I looked like 10 years ago and what I look like today, I am far more attractive today than I was 10 years ago. If I look at myself 10 years ago compared to 10 years before then, I was more attractive 10 years ago than I was 20 years ago. My attractiveness has improved. In fact, if I was to draw it here, it would look like this. My social media, my personal posts, everything about me just goes up. That is a conscious effort that I put in to make myself more attractive as time goes on. I already know what 65-year-old me looks like. You guys don't know, but I do. Because I'm going after the Dos Equis most interesting man in the world. That is the look that I'm going for. I'm starting it today, and when I'm 65, that's the goal. I think that that's a pretty attractive man. 65, traveling the world, doing crazy things, sword fighting on the top of castles, and doing whatever else he does. And I'm like, that's where I want to be when I'm 65 years old. I think I'm well on my way to that. People that know me are like, yeah, Adam's kind of like already there. But that's the goal. But this is a conscious effort. Every time I make an effort to make myself more attractive, it takes time, energy, and commitment. And people around me that watch me do this say to me, wow, you're so amazing. You do all these great things. And you're so lucky. You know, it's so fortunate to be in that situation. It's not luck. It's not fortune. It's hard work. When it comes to attraction, they're the people that everybody wants. And it's not because they're beautiful. It's not because they're attractive. It's because of the effort they put in that shows the result of them being attractive. So, when it comes to yourself and your social media profile, you got to ask yourself, what does your social media profile say about you? Once upon a time, social media wasn't as important as it is today. Nowadays, I like to think of it as your life resume. If somebody wants to give you a job, if somebody wants to date you, if somebody wants to hang out with you and be your friend, your social media is one of the first things they'll look at to decide if that's what they want to do. When somebody meets you, it's very common to trade Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, whatever, and then they'll go through it and they'll look back over the last couple of months to see what kind of person you are. They'll see how you vote, they'll see how you treat people online, they'll see all sorts of things about you. So if you want to portray yourself in your best light possible and be as attractive as possible, it makes sense to develop an attractive social media profile. So when it comes to social media, there's some key elements that we need to look at about your profile that are going to make you naturally more attractive. The first is photos. The second are posts. The third is your about or your description. And the last is responses. These are what I would consider things that make you attractive on social media. I've actually seen situations where you look through somebody's social media, and as you go through it, you realize that all they do are post pictures themselves, and they don't communicate or type or text, and those profiles are kind of boring. Like, you kind of lose interest in them. You really, if you want to be mass attraction, you need to have all four of these things in line. So we're going to tackle each one of these separately, and we're going to talk about what you could do to make each one optimized. So we'll start with photos. There are a couple of key elements that make photos look good. One, you need to be the subject of the photo. If you're taking pictures of your food, of landscapes, and you're not in them, then you're missing out on a huge opportunity. You need to be in every picture on your Facebook or on your Instagram, or at least in the majority of them. It's even better if that picture is further away. Not because you don't want to be close to the picture, but because it makes you seem more like a subject, like a star of a movie, or the subject of a modeling shoot, meaning you need somebody else to take your picture for you. Now there's a couple of ways of doing this. One is get used to the selfie timer, hit the selfie button, put it over there and take a picture of yourself. The other way to do it is just ask a friend to take pictures of you. But no matter what, even if I took a picture of my food, I would always put myself in the picture if I could. Because the more you show a picture of yourself with the food, the more attractive you're gonna be. Now that doesn't mean that I don't have pictures of just my food up on social media, because I absolutely do, but it's a rarity. I'm far more likely to put a picture of myself than I am to put a picture of just my food. I like to find a balance so I don't look completely vain. But still, you gotta make sure that you appear in your pictures at least somewhat frequently. Another key element that's gonna make your pictures look more attractive is getting them professionally done. Like, something that is really fun to do, especially nowadays, is if you've got a friend with a DSLR camera, hire them once a month. Pay them $50 to come out with you and take some pictures. I'm not talking about a professional, just a friend with a good camera. You give them $50, they get to practice using their brand new camera they spent a couple of $1,000s on and aren't using, and they get to justify it like, I got paid, it's great. But you get some really cool pictures. And if you did that once a month, once a quarter, once a year at least, get a variety of pictures in a variety of different outfits, just out and about doing things, and you're gonna look great. And then the last element, if I could give it to you, is this. It's this word, candid. You want candid pictures. A candid picture is one where you're not looking at the camera. If you watch any movie, it's very rare for any of the actors to look directly into the camera. They'll look around at everything except directly down the camera lens. That's done on purpose because it stops breaking the fourth wall and creates a more immersive experience. That means most of us are used to seeing celebrities who don't look at the camera. And so what we want to do is make sure that as often as possible, we're getting pictures where we're not looking directly in the camera. I actually have a friend of mine that will set up a selfie camera and then not look at the camera and do an activity and set it so they'll take like 20 pictures of themselves at a distance. And then they'll go back through, pick the one that's good, and that's the one that goes up on social media. So that's how you get good photos. And this should be a conscious effort. If I was going to give you a task, I would say for the next month, go through and make sure you upload one picture every single day that follows this process. It's one where you're not holding the camera and it's a candid picture. Also learn a little bit about lighting. It'll make a big difference in your shots. Most people that don't understand lighting, they'll be like, oh, this is a really brilliantly lit area. And then they'll take a picture of themselves, but they're in shadow because they can see the light and they assume it's on them, but that's not necessarily true. So just understand lighting. And sometimes it makes sense to spin in a circle until the camera looks good and you can see that you and the background are both easily to be seen. Posts. What do you write about? This is how people are going to judge you. A lot of us say, we have freedom of speech. I can write whatever I want. It's my voice. But that's not actually true. Most social media platforms have rules about what you can and can't post. It's not a public forum. It is a private company and they do get to monitor what you say. So if they have guidelines, you probably want to impose some guidelines on yourself. And the best thing that I can suggest is only do positive posts. If you go back through every social media post I've made in the last goodness knows how many years, they're all positive. Even when bad things have happened in my life, I often write positive things about it. I try and find the silver lining in anything because it's not my therapy session. It's not a place for me to vent. It's a place for me to inspire and to help others. And that's the whole point. So your posts should always be positive. If you can do that, your attractiveness will go through the roof. Your about. Again, when people write an about, they'll often be dismissive. People tend to write like, I don't know what to write here, so I just wrote some random crap about me. If you start with, I don't know what to write here, that literally means you don't know who you are. This is the point where you're supposed to let people know about yourself. If I was going to do it, and I wasn't as good as doing it as I am, I'd probably write an FAQ. And the easiest way to do an FAQ would actually be to start with a positive post on your social media and be like, hey guys, if you could ask me anything about myself, what would you ask? Collect a list of questions, answer them all, put them in the about. And you can literally start by saying, for the About Me section, I decided that I would do an Ask Me Anything on my social media and then transcribe the responses here. So here are the answers to my Ask Me Anything. And if you've got a question that you'd like to ask me that isn't here, feel free to send me a private message. Imagine how many people that read your About page might send you a private message. That would probably do wonders for increasing the amount of people that are talking to you online, which would improve the attractiveness of your social media. And lastly, we get to responses. One of my friends wrote a very lovely post about this today. He likes board games, but there are 3 board games that he does not like. And he made this analogy, which is, I love board games, but these 3 board games I think are terrible. When I walk past people enjoying these board games, I don't say anything to them because I don't want to ruin the fun that they're having. And it got me thinking that social media is exactly the same way. Some people might want to write negative posts on their social media. They might want to write things that are disparaging, that are something that I find offensive or that I don't like. It's not my job to go in there and ruin their social media experience, or worse, be baited into some awkward conversation with them that is the whole reason they made that post. I have 2 options. Ignore it and walk past, turn the other cheek and just live my life. Or report it and let Facebook or Instagram or what have you deal with it themselves, because they have terms of service and they will get to decide whether it is against their terms of service or whether it's hate speech or what have you. I have no need to get into that conversation and I don't need to. But if I do, I might end up being emotionally reactive. I might write something negative or something that I don't necessarily agree with when I've got a clear mind, and I'll make myself unattractive. So once again, monitor your responses. Keep them positive, keep them happy, and you will have an attractive social media profile. The only other thing that I could suggest that you add to this is interesting things. In life, I found it's best to be attractive if you do interesting things, but there's no point doing interesting things if you don't talk about it. So when you find yourself in an interesting situation, for example, when you're hanging out in a situation like this, tell people about it. Because if you can be brave enough to cross that line and make sure you make these posts on a regular basis, it's not what it will do for you tomorrow. It's not what it will do for you in a week. It's what it will do for you in 3 months or 6 months or even a year. That prolonged time of monitoring the way that you handle things is going to be better. I like to think of it like this. Remember that there's a good chance that one of your distant relatives is friends with you on social media. Now ask yourself, if they were in the room with you, would you have that argument? If they were in the room with you, would you really make that negative post? Because the reality is, if they're on your social media, they're in the room with you. And if you wouldn't do it while they're sitting there directly in front of you, if you wouldn't cuss or talk about your sex life in front of your nan, you probably don't want to write about it on social media. And that's the key. It doesn't mean you can't talk about these things, but have those conversations in private, in a private text thread with the people that really need to talk about it, or with your therapist if you absolutely need to. But when it comes to your social media profile, let's all grow up and let's use social media the way we're supposed to use it, which is the way that we would handle a conversation like that in a true social setting where we're actually hanging out with other people.